Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and today's episode is kind of a special episode, but it's kind of a long one though. I had basically been, got an email from various different people that want to do a series of basic collaborations, or basically sort of a, a kind of a conference call sort of interview. Okay, so in this particular episode, I met with another YouTube channel called animebackwhen, and he focuses more on reviews and that kind of stuff, and also on basically more classical types of anime. Okay, and so I was approached by him to basically do an interview, like sort of conference call, regarding basically some of my history, and how I got back into the anime industry. So here's kind of a fairly long sort of probably better suited as a podcast, but you know I've added some some pictures and some pop-up video to help you and associate with the conversation, and keep on track with the conversation. Okay, so again, it's the timing and everything is a little bit out of sync, because if you've ever done a Zoom call or done FaceTime, sometimes the video comes out of sync to the audio, and it's really hard to get it resynced back up again. So I tried my best, and so you'll find some parts that don't quite really fit that well. Just kind of let that pass and slide. This is going to be definitely a good sort of storytelling, sort of try to make it sort of bring all the pieces together. So the interview flowed in a very sort of linear fashion. So I was able to tell my story, and basically put it together in a kind of a very straightforward type of format. So again, it is rather long, so if you can stick with it, great. If not, maybe break it into little chunks, and basically consume it like a podcast, maybe. Then that might really work well for you. Okay, so without further delay, let's begin.
Okay, what's going on, guys? Recca, back again from Anime Back When, and today I have a special guest with you, a guy that I actually found you, bro. I think it was a good 3-4 months ago, just going through anime content on YouTube and stuff like that, and looking through old anime content, and I found your channel one time, and it was like a video of you were going over conventions and stuff, back in the day. And then I never really stuck to the channel after that 4 months ago, but then I found you again a couple weeks ago. I was like, I gotta subscribe and keep up with it. And I love what you're doing, and I think this is a good video for a lot of you guys to check out. As far as what the anime fan that's been around probably just as long as anime culture has been prevalent as far as the Western society goes. So I'd like to welcome William Chow, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Welcome William Chow to the show, and this is his episode. So honestly, man, just get into your story, where you from, how long anime, and just kind of give me a guide, give me a guideline, a timeline of where you started from and what got
Absolutely.
you into anime up until today.
Okay. I mean, I was born in Canada. Okay.
Okay.
So I grew up in a very small town of Prince George. Less than 100,000 people. Okay. So
Wow.
nothing really much to do. So I'm just like a lot of the people that grew up, watching Saturday morning cartoons. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much like a lot of the kids, that grew up in our era. We basically watched our Saturday morning cartoons, or we come home from school and we're watching our afternoon things, programming, the Sesame Streets and the Electric Companies and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, Saturday morning for me was Scooby Doo, and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and Justice League. A lot of the in my time was a lot of the Filmation shows, right? So a lot of the Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, Flash Gordon, Black Star, Space Sentinels. basically, the farthest thing from anime you can really get,
You could
basically.
think
Yeah.
just
Okay.
Western animation pretty much.
Yeah, because I'd wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning and just watch some cartoons until basically noon on Saturday because there's nothing better to do on noon.
They do.
It's just nothing to do on Saturday, right? So and basically, I grew up with this kind of stuff, and I really liked, animation in general. And even when I even graduated out of high school, I really still didn't really have a good clue of what anime really was because we didn't really have anything. I mean, back then it was the odd episode of Star Blazers and maybe I on the but it was really infrequent, right? They'd show an episode here and maybe an episode there, and then the show would get canceled, and I wouldn't see anything, right? I'd occasionally go on to the French channel, and I'd see like Captain Harlock, Albatura,
French?
yeah,
Captain Harlock in French?
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that I actually saw more episodes of because it was actually sort of somewhat in order. I remember seeing some Cat's Eye, Sing du Cat's Eye. That also was on the French channel, but again, very very spotty. Very they never played the episodes in order. So my exposure to anime was very limited, right? It wasn't until I moved out of Prince George and went to Vancouver to go to university. There, I met some people actually, through the computer clubs and through the sci-fi clubs, that really got me interested into more episodic series. One of the major ones was Robotech at that time. Okay, now even at this time, I really didn't know the difference between Japanese animation and like regular animations, right? Other than the fact that the one thing that was the key thing is that one episode, like the story wasn't over at the end of the episode, right? You watch a typical Scooby Doo episode or whatever, right? There's some bad guy doing some ghost or something, and then by the end of the episode, they find the guy, they catch him, and that's it, right? 30 minutes, everything's done. And so I also really liked a lot of the shows which were one episode led to the next episode, which the story continued on to the next episode, I got a little taste of it with like things like Flash Gordon and Jason of Star Command. Okay,
it's crazy because for a lot of us, like anime are segued into something that is animated, something that's a cartoon, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But then it's also a story. Like you're also investing into an actual story. You know what I mean? So I think that was like the catch for a lot of people to get anime. But,
exactly. Yeah. So when I was watching, the funny story was, as I said on my channel, is that one of the first episodes of Robotech that I saw was episode 28, which is the Force of Arms episode. It's essentially the episode where the Zentradi come to the Earth and they just basically blast the hell out of the Earth, right? And so this really got me because typically the heroes or the people in the story always win, right? Spider-Man, or any of the Justice Leagues, or Scooby-Doo, for example, even, right? They, nothing ever bad happens to them. They always catch the bad guy at the end.
You never see Scooby get killed off, or them get kidnapped, and then that was the end of the episode. It's always they're gonna beat him somewhere or another.
Yeah, so this was a really really new thing to me. All of a sudden, the people of the Earth aren't winning, right? We're losing, right? And so this really kind of really captured my interest in Japanese animation, and I really wanted to get more. So at this time, being moved into Vancouver, I was able to to meet different people from the university, and learn about different places in Vancouver that you could get stuff. So I started looking into Japanese grocery stores and Japanese video stores and that kind of stuff. And I kept on getting more and more of this kind of Japanese animation, and I was running into things like Zeta Gundam, original Gundam. At that time, things like City Hunter was coming out. one of the
So
first
this,
series I kind of really just saw a glimpse of and really captured my interest was that series Kimagure Orange Road. Okay, and again, these are off
right.
of like video cassettes that I got from some mom and pop shop that in a grocery store in Vancouver somewhere, right?
Now this must have had no on it or anything
Oh,
like that.
no subtitles. I mean, we're watching all this stuff, raw in Japanese,
Uh,
okay? And at this time, I had no like I'm Chinese myself, right? So I'm not Japanese, and so I had no idea what they're saying. I can kind of guess, and really none of my friends were really Japanese either at this time. Until when I was going to university, I finally met one of my translators, the later on translators, Daisuke. Okay, and he was this Japanese fellow that was basically came to Canada, and he's going to UBC as well. And
okay.
he likes the similar things, science fiction. He likes a little bit of gaming, but he was a really big avid fan of Japanese animation, and he really knew his stuff. And he was very, very enthusiastic about Japanese animation. Okay,
Mhm.
I remember days he'd have a manga, just some random manga, maybe it was like Maison Ikaku or Bloody Angels or something, and he'd literally put the manga in your face and say, yeah, this is what's going on here, and and then he'd say, this is the line they're saying here, and it's like, oh my god, watch out, and all this other stuff, and he'd actually be really, excited and answers like that. So that really got me also interested in mangas and other things about anime, right? So
Of
that's
course.
yeah, so that's how I kind of got started in learning more about different animes, but now all of a sudden learning about different things, because again, when I collect comic books, right? I was your typical Archie and Veronica and those type of comics. Sergeant Rock,
Stuff, stuff
Conan.
you get stuff you get in the grocery store.
Yeah,
Check on the little rack.
yeah, it's exactly the stuff that you see on the rack there. I didn't actually go into a comic store to actually get comics. It's just the stuff that's on in a magazine store, grocery
Yeah,
store. Maybe going to like Shoppers Drug Mart or something, and you'd see the issue of Conan or something there, and that's what I'd end up buying, right?
yeah,
But then so now Daisuke's now introduced me to stories that you can get through manga, right?
right.
And that all of a sudden opened a whole bunch of things, because now I go say, well, where do you get all this Japanese stuff? Like, where could I get more? And he introduced me to this again, another mom and pop Japanese store, but it's a bookstore called Sophia's Bookstore in Vancouver. Okay.
Okay.
And again, it's just a family run business where they just import a whole bunch of Japanese books and that kind of stuff, magazines and that kind of stuff in.
Nowadays, but how did they back in the eight that there would be a market for importing things out of Japan or anywhere? Like, how did they have the foresight of that? Was there like a
Purpose is
import?
different. The purpose is different. Okay.
Okay,
Um, they aren't importing it to okay. First of all, they're not importing the stuff like Japanese stuff or Korean stuff or whatever. These people aren't importing that kind of stuff for other people. They're importing it for themselves and
so
their group, right? Because you got to remember, at this time, Canada, okay, not only like all of Canada, but Vancouver being one, was a very popular immigration place. Okay,
yeah,
Toronto's probably the same way, right? Because you got to remember, early '80s was the Vietnamese boat crisis. Remember,
right, right.
right? So a flood of refugees who were Vietnamese and that stuff, came here, right?
Came over.
And a lot of their parents and that kind of stuff would have, probably tried to set up, what they know how to do, restaurants.
Right.
Okay, so Asian restaurants, cooking that kind of stuff. Also, just later on that year, the first wave of the Hong Kong crisis, right? England was going to, the 99 years of Hong Kong would expire, and the China then regains control of Hong Kong, right?
Exactly.
And so we had a big flood of all the people who were, uncertain of what was going to happen, basically flood over to Canada, right? send their kids over here, buy a house, right? And that's basically how all the for example, the Fobs came over, right?
Right.
And then of course the Koreans were the same thing, because you remember they had the big thing where every child or whatever was basically had to go through military training, right? So what Koreans would do is they would send their kids for international students, quote, right? Send them over here, right?
They don't have to go to the
so then they don't have to go and do military training and then get enlisted in the army and all that stuff, right? So basically, now all of a sudden we got all these extra, Cantonese speaking Hong Kong people. We have, Mandarin people that, at that time, China, not a lot of people were immigrating in from China because, again, it was still very, communist and whatnot, and so we didn't quite open the borders as much to them yet. But the Japanese, no problem. Koreans, Vietnamese, okay. So what they would do is they would get things from their own country, and they'd bring them over here, to basically, to keep their people, comfortable with, kind of home comfortable conveniences. So they get the candies, the pop, a lot of things would be to record movies and that kind of stuff, and send them over here so that they can watch all their soap operas, kung fu movies. They're trying to bring things of their culture over here. And the concept of a big essentially a big cardboard box full of video cassettes and candy and other kind of things, some CDs or whatever. Just throw them all into a box and they ship them over here, right? So you get all these mom and pop shops that open up as a grocery store, or like the slash a video store, right? They'll put in some Japanese candies and that kind of stuff, a whole bunch of video cassettes of the most recent Japanese soap operas and of course in this case animes and that kind of stuff, because they just sit there and just 6 hour speed or whatever, or 2 hour or 4 hour speed, just record an entire afternoon slash evening of video commercials and everything, right? And even though they ran a grocery store, I'd go into those things. They'd have there's this one down on like Main Street. They stored all their video cassettes on top of all their freezers. So it'd be like 2 or 3 stacks of video cassettes just lined up all across all their meat freezers and that kind of stuff. But it'd be all full of like random days of anime, right? And stuff. It's like, here's one, like it'd be like September 13th or something like that, and it'd be like from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock on NBS, and anything that was playing on NBS that evening would be on this video cassette. So I'd get like an episode of Dragon Ball, and then Chibi Marco-chan or something, and then Soccer Boy, like Captain Tsubasa or something, and then maybe an episode of Gundam or something. It's just total random mess of stuff, right? But that's what got me into it, right? As I learned more about the different types of animes and that kind of stuff, I found more places to buy anime and to rent anime. I said Daisuke showed me to that Japanese bookstore, and that was really important, because now I had a place to get not only current Japanese magazines, which told me about what animes are out, but it also gave me a place that I can get Japanese art books, Japanese manga, and that kind of stuff. So that sort of brought in the rest of it to me, towards me, right? So that I'm becoming more and more educated about what's out, what's available, and whatnot. Okay, and that's what basically fueled my interest, towards watching more and more anime, right? So because I'm finding out that this is where I kind of found out where hey, not only just this one part of Robotech was this sort of episodic long story with lots of character building and that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
But a lot of these shows, in my case, so things like Orange Road, and heck, for that even matter, City Under Dragon Ball, for example, right? It was a long series, but it progressed on with the story. Every episode added to the story, right?
To the story.
Yeah, and so that's what really was the difference for me.
Mm-hmm. you brought up Robotech a couple of times.
Yeah.
Let me ask. Of course, you probably know that that's a mashup of Mosquito.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mosquito, Southern Crossing.
So how do you feel about Robotech now? Because I'm sure at the time you know, or you probably didn't know about the other three shows.
When I first got interested in or first got introduced to Robotech, the person who introduced it to me already gave me that warning right at the very beginning.
Oh, so you already knew?
Yeah. Part of the reason is because the person, at the time I got given the episodes of Robotech and that kind of stuff. I also got given the Cantonese versions of a whole bunch of the episodes from Hong Kong TV. Okay, again, as a result of as I said, these people from sending in and recording TV shows in Hong Kong and bringing them over to Canada, and then basically I was able to rent them from one of these rental stores. And one of the tapes happened to have Chinese episodes of Mosquito, and I think at the time they were also playing Orgus, super dimensional cross Orgus at that time. So that's how I started to. So that's how I already knew the difference, and started realizing that what we're getting here is nothing like what they're getting over there. Like there's so much more over there. There's a lot of it's a different story over there sometimes than what we're getting over here all together, right? Nothing like maybe maybe nothing as bad as like for example ghost stories or something. But I mean so now my question for you on the same token is that when I grew up and that kind of stuff, our choices of in terms of cartoons and that kind of stuff and anime was very, very limited. To the point that we had virtually none at all. Okay. Now, of course, you're a lot younger, so you grew up in an era where anime was already available to you. Okay. Yeah. So how did you again, how did you distinguish, for example, watching, Powerpuff Kids or whatever, as opposed to actually watching, like an animated show like Naruto or Dragon Ball or something?
So it's funny because I come from what I like to describe as like the segue, my age range, like the late '90s, the mid to late '90s babies age range. I call us like the segue kids, where we're young enough to like the time before you were able to just jump online and stream, and then we're still that we were the ones who kind of popularized the stream era. So when I was growing up, I was watching. You might not know these shows, so you might have been, an adult by the time they were already coming out. But things like Courage the Cowardly Dog, a lot of like cartoon Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network stuff. I was watching stuff like that. And my segue into the anime would have been Dragon Ball, Pokemon. I think Digimon was out at this time. And they're talking like when I was like 5 years old. So this is the very early 2001. Now, how I distinguished the difference was this exact talking about where the story kind of builds and adds on and things like that. Now, you had certain Marvel shows that were out that kind of had that. Like I remember there was a Spider-Man show that was out, actually not episode, actually kind of built on. It's small arts, like episode arts and things like that. But when Dragon Ball would have been the first show, Dragon Ball show that distinguished that for me, where it was a story that adds up. And then I realized that they're using. At the time, I would have been like Chinese names. I didn't know the Japanese Chinese, but can you hear me good?
Yep, it's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At the time, I'm just like, oh well, they have Chinese. So at what point do you start? At what point? So where is your mindset at this point? Are you going to school with the intention of I'm going to go into this career, and anime is just going to be something that I'm into on the side, or were you like? Did you ever have a point where you were just like, is there a way that I can, because it seems like it was something that you were passionate about at that But was it something that you were like, hey, maybe open my own shop, or maybe I can be an English dubber, or maybe I can, or was it just something that just was a hobby and you were just trying to find as much and consume as much as possible? Like, where's your 5 years old when I got into it? So as I'm growing older and I'm realizing that, oh, there's a difference between this and things that I'm watching just on the regular TV. So,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. So at this time, again, I was going to university, and sorry, no, I went into university as in computer sciences, right? My goal was to end up going into game production, or in this case, 3D modeling, rendering, and that kind of stuff. For shows that were starting to come out and be popularized at this time would have been things like Reboot, and yeah. Yeah, because remember, Reboot was made in Vancouver, right? From Main Street, right? So.
Hold on, you're talking about Reboot with Enzo.
Yep.
Oh my! So what year was this?
Early. Yeah, 90. It was like the early 90s. That when that was in production, because that was that, and then of course the.
Out of the 80s now, we're into the 90s.
Yeah, starting to bleed into the 90s, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so that's so I was my career was going that way, but my interest again, in Japanese animation and that kind of stuff, it fueled a lot in that respect as well too, because the fact that a lot of the ideas and that kind of stuff were coming from that. I know that one of the projects that sort of came after was that Beast Wars, Transformers Beast Wars. Again, a lot of CG and that kind of stuff was done in that. So I thought maybe I was going to get into something like that. So I just started basically collecting more and more anime. Collecting more and more anime. I found out about these fan clubs, right? So the whole entire creation of a fan club. I was doing a lot of mail orders across Canada and the United States. To basically try to get more different types of Japanese animation from other fans of anime, and that's how I got into a lot of the releases and that kind of stuff from things that I couldn't get off of the Japanese rental stores, right? A lot of the movies and the OVAs and those things. Like obviously in the modern era, right? People still had have the alternative to go to the internet and stream and download and all that kind of stuff, right? But again, early 90s, we didn't even have Windows 95, so none of this streaming or even Windows, for that matter, even existed, right?
That's foreign language.
Yeah, right. So that's like before even we even had these computers with screens and stuff, right? It was very important to actually have a physical copy of a video, because that was the only way that you kind of got it, whether or not it was a video cassette or a laser disc, or like, for the example, for music, for example, you actually had to have the CD, right?
Soundtrack.
Yeah, because there was no way to transmit it across the internet or using a computer to get it from one location to another. Okay.
Yeah, because even when they first had the technology of uploading things, it would take like a day or longer. I heard back in the day.
Oh yeah. I remember. I grew up in the Napster era. Okay.
Oh wow.
All right. And I remember, I remember at the university, right? I'd go in there because I remember Napster was going to get shut down in February, right? Napster was gonna get shut down, and it was gonna get changed into this, what, a pay service or whatever it was. So,
Okay.
and that was in February. So, in December, I went into the computer labs at UBC. When basically when everyone was busy trying to finish off their projects, everyone's finished their exams, and everyone's trying to enjoy Christmas, right? But I decided, oh no, I'm gonna go into the computer labs because nobody's gonna be there, and I just basically set up like 10 computers all in a row, with Napster to download all my stuff. I had this big long checklist of MP3s, and I'm sitting there downloading it all. But yeah, you're right. It takes.
It's funny. It's like at that time, like that sounds crazy now. Now it sounds like so much work, and it sounds like who would want to go through that? But at the time, it was like the most innovative thing that you could do. You know what I mean? I can download you. I don't have to go to the store and buy a disc. So it just shows you like every time technology advances, the technology before it looked so ancient and old, and like it's just amazing. And that was like what 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how technology evolves. It's very interesting. Because I remember I used to use LimeWire. I don't know if you remember LimeWire.
Yeah, LimeWire. Yeah, was
I used to use LimeWire.
LimeWire, eDonkey, and all those.
Yeah. So this time I'm like 10 years old. I had the little MP3 player. So this was like 07, 06, 07. And it's amazing to me now that I have Apple Music, and any song pretty much that I want to listen to, I can just I remember that song. I just search.
Yep, search and
you got it. Auxiliary, good.
Yeah,
like, that's crazy to me, and that was 10 years ago. So
this is the era of how anime fan clubs started emerging, right? So now we got all these people who are interested in anime, and I've learned about the things like the CFO, the Cartoon Fantasy Organization, and then strangely enough, the chapter of the Cartoon Fantasy organization from Victoria, which is across the water on Vancouver Island, they decided to come over to Vancouver to basically set up a Vancouver version of the the CFO, or an animation club in Vancouver. Okay. And it was actually pretty well attended, their first meeting, right? It's like, probably like 40, 50 different people showing up at a community center, just a random community center, to basically, watch anime and talk about anime and that kind of stuff. And basically, from this, that sort of started this whole entire, concept of sharing anime with other people. Right, because the only way you can get anime right at this time is someone had to have a physical VHS tape or something of that anime, and the only way you would see it is if someone put it into VCR and played it, or made a copy of it for you or whatever, so that you could then take it home and play it on your own VCR, right?
So you guys had to have been like idolizing the people that were from Japan or lived in Japan.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that was also the problem is that we didn't actually have that many people that lived and worked in Japan that really, wanted to spend the time to send stuff, here, back here to, in the U.S. or in Canada, right? I did have one friend that I met through the anime club. His name was Asa. He was a big Vancouver Canucks fan, and he had a homestay student from Japan who was also a big hockey fan. I mean, to the point that he actually played goalie.
Wow.
Okay, so when he went back to Japan, he continued to play, hockey and that kind of stuff and that. But one of the things that he couldn't get.
I'm assuming he's from the Hokkaido region.
Yeah, further up north. Yeah. What was funny is that he had the same problem that we have. Let's see, we can't get anime and that kind of stuff from Japan. He can't watch hockey games from like NHL hockey games in Japan. So we thought, hey, tell you what, we'll record every single Vancouver Canuck game and I'll send it to you on tape. Okay? And
you're gonna send me some anime.
And then you just send me whatever, City Hunter, just set your VCR on timer record or whatever, so that every Wednesday at 7:00 record me City Hunter, Dragon Ball, and just the list goes on of whatever was out there. And so that's when we had to actually use those Japanese books that I got to sit there. Okay, what's on the time schedule? What can we get him to record for us? And so he can start sending us this quote newer content, right? I mean, even though with the mailing system that I was doing from the CFO and that kind of stuff from the US, those animes were at least a year, 2 years, 3 years, plus older, right?
Older, yeah.
Yeah. But now here's an opportunity to start getting some really fresh stuff that's only a couple months old now.
Yeah.
Right. And
no, right now? You mean right now?
Well, like at that time, right?
At that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
say,
yeah.
As soon as a new episode comes out now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's instant. Yeah, it's online. Boom. Yeah. But so this is a really relatively new concept, because you imagine here we are reading like a new type magazine or something, right? And it's saying, hey, new episode of Double Zeta Gundam, whatever, right? And then just a month, 2 months, 3 months later, we actually have that episode, and I can actually watch it, and I can, it actually corresponds to, the description that's in the magazine or the pictures I see in the magazines.
Yeah. So you're able to, you're basically you're able to follow it now. Like,
yeah. So now I'm starting to be able to follow it. We have this anime group that are we're showing animes and that kind of stuff, but that still was good and all, but there's still that one problem. Everything was still in Japanese.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, everything was still straight in Japanese.
Like how? Because I can't fathom in my mind watching anime that I pretty much, because I collect so much, and most of the stuff I watch is from my collection. Unless I'm watching something newer or whatever the case may be, it's hard for me to even fathom, because I watch a lot of dub. So it's hard for me to even fathom, I'll watch sub and this, that, and the other, but I don't know, something about English dub, it just works for me. I can look away from the screen and still kind of follow what's going on. So I can't even fathom in my mind. I'm learning Japanese now. I'm actually halfway fluent at this point. But when I was just growing up watching anime, I couldn't even fathom, just watching the screen and not understanding what they're saying. So how did you guys, what kept you guys still enthusiastic still? Was it the art style and the animation, or what was it that was drawing you in, even though you couldn't understand what the hell they were talking about?
Well, again, fortunately, a lot of this. Well, again, at the time, we were at a time where a lot of the shows that were being pushed out at that time were action type shows, right? And I always like again, I always love to use the word the 3 Gs. Okay, if an anime has the 3 Gs, you're at this time you were marked for success, and that was, you had that girls, you had that guns, and you had that gore. And you think about it, early releases, Ixer 1, Dangayo, Project Echo, Maddox, Bubblegum Crisis, all these really classic shows. They had that, and they sold well. So basically, so that really launched the next part, and that was, we got to find a way to make this more accessible. I mean, we can sit there with little kind of like Cole's notes or crib sheets or whatever that kind of go, this is what's going to happen, this is what she's talking about here, and here's the dialogue, and then after the guy gets killed, this is what's happening. You can hand those out before the meeting, but people still don't want the nuance, and they want all this other stuff. So that's when I started really looking into, hey, let's see if we can figure out how to do subtitles, or put some more translation onto it, right? And this idea came from the fact that at the same time when I'm renting all these movies and that kind of stuff, a lot of the stuff that was coming out of Hong Kong and that kind of stuff were martial arts movies. The Jackie Chan's, the Sammo Hungs, exactly, that kind of stuff, right? And their translations in English were like horrible. The subtitles were just like it was like a rolling. It was like horrible. It was
just enough so you can understand.
It's like, you kill my brother, I kill you, and just stupid dialogue like that, right? and like horrible. Like I remember, things like I remember there was a live action the Fist of the North Star, right? And the guy's talking for like a minute, right? And then the only words on the screen is you're dead.
Yeah, I noticed that about shows, particularly Fist of the North Star, and there's another one that's like that too.
There's a whole bunch of the shows. Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, you'll hear and then you'll see one sentence, and he just been talking for like 30 seconds straight, and, they translate to one sentence.
Yeah,
so,
you're already dead. It's like,
yeah.
But so I thought, okay, I mean, people are enjoying, these martial arts or kung fu movies, like, like that. I'm sure we could do something better than that for an anime, right? So, so basically, so I had some help from Daisuke and that kind of stuff. I went into like various different computer stores to see what kind of technology was available to do this kind of stuff, and I managed to put together a really basic subtitling system on an Amiga 500 computer. So this is the age of the computer that we're using, right?
Yeah. And I saw that on your page. I saw you early on with the computer.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Computer, the little Macintosh computer.
Yeah, so that's exactly how we started, and we figured out, this is, we can get the translations, we can kind of, figure out how to get the words on the screen, and that's basically how we started. And the first series that I really wanted to get started with was Orange Road. Okay, my translator, Daisuke didn't really care about that one, but
before we get there, I love when I hear this because it hits very home to me when you have like a genuine burning passion for something, like how far you're willing to take it, like how like obscure the things that you're willing to do to try to immerse yourself into the thing that you're passionate about. Because how many people would have just thought to themselves, oh well, I can't get to Japanese, all right, well, back to American or Western. But you said, nah, like I have to, you know what I mean? I have to indulge in this. I have to immerse myself in this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take matters into my hands, and I'm going to start up my own little system for it. So I love when I hear this because it kind of reminds me of what I'm all about. I'm all about, by any means necessary, if I really want to get into something, I'm going to find a means to get into. So I love hearing that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. But that's the thing, right? It's like, because nobody else is going to do it, right? I'm looking at the landscape of the of all the fan clubs and that kind of stuff. And at that time, the only other really group that was doing fan subbing and that kind of stuff was like Ranma Project, who wanted to be, Rob Gutierrez out of where is he out of? San Francisco, and he wanted to basically, to subtitle all of Ranma before before Visit got a license, right? And so so I wrote him and asked him for suggestions and what he was using and all that kind of stuff, and basically together with a few helping hand from like other people who made the software and all that kind of stuff, I managed to put together a system that actually started doing subtitles. Again, very crude, just I'm making an episode right now of actually outlining the process how we actually did it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very, but it's all in real time. That's the problem.
I was gonna ask you like how much it costs you to do and everything, but I think maybe we could wait for the episode.
Yeah.
Is that an expensive?
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands?
Yeah, I mean the subtitling equipment, just the one box that does the overlay was like $1,000.
That's not a lot of money.
The time-based corrector was $1,200.
For which?
For a video card.
Wow. At that time.
Yeah, at that time it's like it's like it's got like
$1,000. Okay, $1,000 back then is like the value of having $1,000 back then compared to now is
it's
just a lot of money.
It's because a lot of money. Because I mean, a lot of people say, I spent $1,000 on a video card, but I mean, on a video card nowadays, it's got like gigabytes upon gigabytes of memory and a whole bunch of graphics processors and all this other stuff. But $1,000 back then, you couldn't even it doesn't even have like 20th of the processing power.
the
Yeah,
space.
yeah. That's
Wow.
it. Right. So I managed to put those up, and the first series that we really got interested in doing was Orange Road, just because that was one of my favorites. It wasn't one of my translators' favorite, but I said, come on, help me out. Yeah, so I went out and I bought the laser discs for Orange Road.
Camaraderie or Orange Road.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where, like, I mean, I could do it off the tape copies that I got from from the Japanese video store, right? But of course, they'd have commercials in it, and every whatever, I'd have to try to cut the commercials out, or just not subtitle anything over the commercials, right? So eventually I ended up having to I think I spent, every laserdisc was $78 US
That is a lot
for
of money.
every laserdisc, and there's 12 laserdiscs in that TV series.
Shoot.
Okay.
And you had them all.
I had to buy them all because that's the only way you get that set, right? And I bought them one by one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you took your time and maybe I get paid, I buy one. Maybe I get paid, I buy. Or did you buy a lot of them in bulks?
No. I bought them pretty much as they came out.
Okay.
So I watched the magazines, right, and they'll say releasing now, Orange Road disc 5, and then they'll say February, whatever, a month from now is the next volume, and then March would be the next volume, right, type of thing. So I'd go into to that family owned bookstore and say, hey, I want to order this, I'll pay you the money, boom, and get it ordered in. So I mean, literally, I'd be spending hundreds to thousands of dollars a month. Just buying books, manga, the animation books. Because I had subscriptions to New Type, Animedia, and Anime V. Those three magazines.
Come to your house. They would just come in the mail.
No, I had to go to I had to go to the store downtown to go pick them up.
Oh wow.
They'd arrive, like a comic book store, right? Your comics would arrive, and then you have to go to the comic book store and pick them up and whatever, right?
That had to have been so much fun. Like just because nowadays everything you can just go on your phone and look up every new news, but like to have to wait, like you might have been at work, like, oh man, I can't wait to go pick up that new type.
Oh yeah, exactly.
There must have been this thrill.
It's like it's really funny to me because is that because that's one of the lost things in modern anime is that element of surprise and anticipation and to be able to and be able to watch something that's different, that's maybe not in your wheelhouse, but you got introduced it because of like someone else, or because you saw it in a magazine, or that kind of stuff, right? So, for example, I only like fighting shows, so all you're watching is Dragon Ball and My Hero Academia and blah 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 blah, right? But all of a sudden, this magical girl show might just pop up, and you just something about it caught you, like Magical Knights Wraith or something, right? Something just,
which is one of my favorite shows.
Exactly, yeah. It just catches you, and it's like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I mean, I like this, right?
And that's the other thing about anime that I love so much is that, well, depending on who you are, because I have friends that are very like all they're really into is like the My Hero Academia, whatever the main big shonens are, like that are coming out that are action. That's pretty much, for the most part, that's all they really pay attention to. And it's just like I feel like for some of us as anime fans, it's like you can be into, we were just talking about Ixer, you could be into Ixer, you could be into Kamagure, or you could be into Magic Knight Rayer, or you could be into Fist of the North Star. And then this week I'm watching Cowboy Bebop. The next week I'm watching Saint Tail. Then next week I'm watching this, and then I'm watching Moldiver. So I feel like there at that particular time that you're talking about, I feel like there had to have been like this thrill of like you just don't even know what's next. Like it had to have been like it's almost like anime becomes like your purpose.
Yeah, actually, it feels more like the way I always would describe it is it's like Christmas, right? Because you get these these books or magazines or whatever, and a lot of these things you have no idea what's going to really be in them, right? Sometimes, but it's like it's like you get them, you open them up, and you'd be surprised at obviously all the stuff that's in it, posters and cards and all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of like your gift to you, and maybe you'll get a good poster or a good picture because again, you can't go to the internet to download a nice screenshot or whatever. You have to wait until one of these magazines prints out a nice poster or whatever of if you for example are a really big fan of Gundam, right? You have to wait until they make a poster or print out a poster of a Gundam or whatever, and then you can stick it up in your wall, right? But the other neat thing was, and the thing that I love when I got these magazines, you poured over them for all the information that was in them. Like you wanted to know what was coming out, what was new. It was literally like kids in a candy store, looking for the new candy, right?
I can only imagine. I open up new type.
Yeah, you're flipping the magazine. It's like what the heck is this? This looks like cool. Like I mean, it looks like a Gundam, but it's not. It doesn't say Gundam, but
where you're like, oh, shoot, this. Yeah, that sounds
right?
like fun.
And or like this is another outdated reference, but it's kind of going through the new like some people loved it, but it might be an outdated reference. But it's like getting the new Sears Roebuck catalog or something, or the new catalog for Nordstrom or something, right? Flipping through it and going, wow, that looks that fur coat looks really cool, and whatever, right? It's kind of like that, right? When you got this sort of literally a catalog, a what's new in the industry. You're just pouring through it, looking for all the cool stuff.
And you value it more when it comes out.
Yeah.
I want to get your story right up to where we are today.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So we're gonna fast track real quick. So at this point you're typing up anime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean you're subtitling it. You're buying the equipment. So at what point does it get to So describe to me this system, and then describe to me how it evolved over time, and then where you eventually got to after years or after months of doing the where did it go from okay we want to get this in Japanese, so now we're exposed to anime completely, we have connections that are in Japan that can send us anime, we have new type magazine, we're able to know what's coming out, what's modern. Okay, now we have an issue, we have access to the anime but we don't have it, we don't understand the language. All right, so now we bought the equipment, now we're actually gonna subtitle this anime. So going from there up until later on when you started buying it and collecting it and stuff like that, take me through that from
okay.
Yeah.
So again, we started with Orange Road. Okay, again, one of the ideas of that I wanted to do that. The next one we did was
love that show.
Oh, it's classic. It was, when I think of high school shows, I think of that kind of a show. I don't think of people trying to beat each other up in high school over food or whatever, right? So then with the next one that we did, once we did finish that series, we realized that the system works really well.
Were people buying? Were people not buying? Not like you were selling it, but were people benefiting from this, or is this for you and your friends?
No. So once people found out that I was subtitling this thing called Orange Road and that kind of stuff, and the word got spread around, the North America and that kind of stuff. I mean, I've had requests and that kind of stuff.
This was like a national.
Oh yeah, this is So once, because as I said, our community was at that time was very, very tight. Okay. Everybody sort of knew the same kind of sort of titles that were out, and if you for example, knew a person who was really interested in, let's say, Armored Trooper Votems, okay?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
There is a channel I watch, and he's from Vancouver, named Happy Console Gamer.
Yeah. That's good old Johnny. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he had a video where he was talking to a guy that's subtitled anime. Is that you?
That's me.
Or is that? That's you.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
So this is because when I was saying earlier that I was familiar with you, I guess that was the memory that I was thinking back. Okay, so that's you.
Yeah.
Because I remember doing a video. I remember watching one of his videos, and he was talking about a guy that was very known in North America for subtitling anime. So now, okay. So now I'm really really happy to be talking to you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what happened. Like, because I said our community was very very close, right? You know, like if I knew that someone was interested in, let's say, Armor Trooper Votems, right? Then I know that there's this guy in the the CFO or whatever, named Tim Eldred. He's pretty much the super avid fan of Votems. He wrote a little book, a fan book about Votems and the episode summaries and that kind of stuff. I could send a person to him and they would know, right? Or if someone would say, "Hey, I'm interested in learning about this show called Ranma." I'd say, "Oh yeah, there's this guy down in the States and he's doing Ranma Project and he's subtitling episodes of Ranma. You talk to him or whatever, right?" Yeah. And so all of a sudden now I'm the guy on the map that goes, "Hey, this guy's subtitled all of Orange Road, okay?" And it's got all the episodes of it from the beginning to end and all. And again, at the time, people were kind of going, "Yeah, I don't know what this Orange Road thing is about," because again, it was a really low key series, but it was something new and it was something that's different, and people, through conversation and mail saying, "Hey, you got to check this series out. It's actually pretty good," and all this other stuff. So I've been getting letters all over.
Because a lot of the older anime fans, like that's one of those ones that they talk about.
Yeah.
When they talk about late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
So continue on from that. Then I started taking suggestions from my translator, okay, Daisuke, because he's doing all the translation, and he wanted to do Maison Ikkaku.
So how is he going on? How is he doing this? He's just listening, he's watching the show, he's writing it down, and then he's
literally, I'll tell you how he did it. He records the audio on one of these crazy Radio Shack tape recorders. Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Wow.
We're all the buttons at the front. Okay.
A 2-track.
Yeah. Just standard. Yeah. Just left and right audio. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And the buttons for the tape recorder at the very front. Okay. So play, fast forward, rewind. Right.
Rewind.
Yeah. He put it on the floor. And he'd use his toes to control stop, fast forward, rewind, and he'd sit there with it on a typing it out. So he'd go, Kyoko, do this. Okay, Kyoko, go to that. Okay, Godai, do this. Okay, yeah.
That is crazy.
And so so doing that method, like transcription type method, he could get like a whole 20-minute episode done in like an hour. Yeah.
So then he would probably just do a couple of episodes a day and send it to you.
Yeah. And send it to it, and then a typical episode once we got the translation put in would probably take 4 to 5 hours to run it through the system and get it out and done.
So you could really pretty much do a show a month.
Yeah. We'll put out a new tape. Or we probably do a new tape or two every month. Yeah, exactly. Because by the time we were done in like 2004, we probably had over 1,000 episodes, movies, and OVAs all done up.
Done.
Yeah.
So actually, we're gonna get there. So you said
Maison Ikkaku. Then the next one he wanted to do was Pat Labor, Mobile Police Pat Labor. And so after Pat Labor, and again, I think that was sort of where the era started changing. Is that then started the era?
That's like 91 or something, right?
Yeah, 91, 92. Then the next sort of genre or era of anime stuff that started coming out.
Because this is like, so now we're getting into like where I become an enthusiast. Like I'm really into that 90 to like 98, 99, 2000. Like this is, so now anything you talk about at this point, I'm pretty much gonna know what you're talking about.
Okay,
I have questions.
Yeah, so. Because you think about just before your era, right? That era.
Okay.
The primary focus was basically on, or the things that were selling the best and the most animes that were coming out at that time was basically giant robot type shows, Gundams, your Dunbines, your Dan Cougar. things like that. All those type of shows were all about the Earth getting attacked, and the only way we can beat them back is with big robots or different worlds with robots. So that was the big sort of era that was sort of happening there, and that was starting to come to a bit of a close, and we're starting to get into the shonen. So the magical girls type of era, okay, because that was the introduction of things like Sailor Moon, and that's so yeah. So what we started working on at that time was Sailor Moon, and at that time, Daisuke really got interested in a series called Himi-chan's Ribbon.
Oh, I know that show. I love that show. I love that show. It's beautiful.
Loved the first 18 episodes. That the entire arc was really, really nice. But yeah, so again, under his direction, he wanted to translate all that. I went out and bought the Laserdiscs and that kind of stuff for that one. It was like 2 Laserdiscs, and they're like $700 each. We had another a person who was a fan in our anime club who wanted to do Miracle Girls.
Sounds familiar. I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's, magical twins, right?
Okay.
Or twins that are like linked together. They have magical powers. So again,
pretty much some 90s magical girl.
Yeah, so all of a sudden we're doing a lot of these magical girl shows, and this is important because I think at that time that brought in the other half of the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you gotta think, all this time we've been releasing shows with the 3Gs, right? We've been releasing big robot mecha war shows and that kind of stuff. And guns, right? And all of a sudden now we've got shows which appeal to women, right? To the other half of the market. Magical girl shows, love relationship shows having with girls and that kind of stuff, right? And again, that's where I said where for example, Magical Knights Rares came out.
Beautiful show.
Yeah.
By the way, first season, phenomenal.
Oh yeah. He was and he was really interested in other types of epic type shows. I think one of the big ones that he wanted to do was 5-star stories.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Really good.
So you guys are doing things based. So, and this goes back to what I was saying. You guys were translating off of like just whatever shows you love, whatever shows it wasn't about if we do these shows, we might be able to sell it for this. It was about I love this show. Okay, we gotta translate.
Yeah, and really, I mean, there were some shows that we did. Just because I really liked them and would be probably pretty popular. For example, Recca the Lotus Wars was yeah.
Because it has to be like a blend. It has to be a happy medium. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like people what they want, but you want to do things that are authentic to how you feel in your heart of hearts.
Yeah, exactly. Because because the fact is, it takes a lot of time to sit there and go over video and watch the same video over and over again to make sure that you've timed it right and whatever. So you got to be you got to sort of enjoy it and like the content and be looking for something rather than just oh boy I'm going to listen to this crap over and over again and
like imagine trying to do a show that you don't even like. Imagine trying to do one of these like modern school anime just because a lot of people might buy it.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, like, just I don't care. Like like for example, that's probably one of the reasons we never did. Even though it's as popular as it is, like Dragon Ball and Naruto and that kind of stuff, we never did any of that kind of stuff. Even though it would be really, really popular if we did, but it's just
so
that
you guys weren't into Dragon Ball too much.
I think the proper way is I was probably interested in it, but none of my translators were interested in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they just didn't want to do it, right?
It's too long anyway.
Yeah. Another example is that there was a show called Dan Cougar. Okay, Super God Beast Dan Cougar. Another one of these. Okay. Oh no, the Earth is getting attacked by the aliens. I guess this only, and then this, the Japanese self-defense force invents this robot that actually will fight back and actually beat the aliens back. It's the only thing that actually works against the aliens. but it was it's one of those multiple robots combined into one and makes a giant robot and the giant robot beats beats the back the aliens type of show. But I really liked it, and I had a really hard time finding a translator to translate it. And
Right.
so eventually, through my connections with the CFO and that kind of stuff, I managed to find a translator, Anna Exter, who actually lived very, very close to me. Okay, who was willing to do it. Okay, and so I paid her to do the translation of the series, and we basically ran it with you and did it, and the ending of the story was is that she later ended up working for the major companies to do translations. You'll
Right.
see her credits on Saber Marionette J, I do believe.
Great show.
She's on.
Great show.
I think she's on the credits for Trigun.
Wow.
But so we kept on doing different types of shows and that kind of stuff all the way up to about 2004, and I even had some shows which I went back and I wanted to do. Like Metal Jack and Gao Geiger and things like that. I wanted to do and never really got to finish because that was sort of the time where I said basically at that time there were so many digital fan subbing groups out at that time because that was the height of like Naruto and One Piece, right? Everyone was trying to get
which fun fact that's actually
yeah.
that was the anime that I'll never forget. 12 years old. That was the anime that really took me from. Oh, I remember I used to watch these little Japanese shows when I was a kid. That One Piece was the one that took me from that to okay, this is anime. So.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah. See, I was entering at that time where, again, the technology is now getting to a point where we can download reasonable copies of episodes right from Japan, and we can get the subtitles on them really quickly. Multiple people.
So you started pirating. So you started pirating to sub.
No, actually, that's approximately when we stopped fan subbing, because all the fan subbing that we did at that time was all physical fan subbing. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're doing it with hardware.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, everything up to that. Yeah, it is nothing was stored in the computer. Everything was all passed through a computer, and then the output was then recorded onto, SVHS tapes at that time.
So
right?
this is the 2000s now.
Yeah, so basically we did all the Magical Girl shows started, through the mid 90 because it was Sailor Moon 95 and that kind of stuff, right? All the way to about the 2000, and then all my pet projects and that kind of stuff I did in the 2000s to the 2004.
So you put in a good decade.
Yeah, so that's when we got G Gundam translated, and I got that.
Awesome.
Because that's another one of my favorite animes.
So how long did you guys do before you guys decided to step away from that? Like a good 10 years.
2004 was that. So basically, 1990 all the way to 2004 is when we did all that
so
stuff.
nice.
Yeah.
So good, almost 15 years.
Yeah, doing all that stuff, and then basically at that time, all the stuff that I really wanted done was pretty much done. All the laserdiscs, all box sets, and that kind of stuff that I collected, that I wanted a translation for, I more or less had. And so and then basically anything else that was new that was coming out was basically being picked up by everybody else, so I didn't have to do any work. So I said, okay, well, just whatever. So I said, I stopped subtitling stuff and just enjoyed the anime for what it was. And again, that was sort of.
I was going to ask you because amidst all of this, because you start off as a fan, you're interested in it, you like what you're seeing, but you're not understanding the language, so that drives you to go translate. So I was going to ask you, like, where are you finding like the time to actually be an anime fan? Because you're providing translations for anime fans, but how are you finding time to be a fan yourself? Because sometimes, I'm like I was talking about music earlier. The reason why I brought up the music analogy was because I make music. So sometimes being a music creator yourself, it's hard to immerse yourself into actually just being a music fan when you're trying to do it. You get what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
can be, like, you want to be your own entity within the sphere that is the music industry, regardless of if you're famous or not. You're still contributing. So sometimes it's hard to look at it from a total I'm just a fan of music kind of sense when you're in it. So like you being a translator and you watching all these shows, and some of these shows that you're doing are like legendary. So Recca the Lotus War, legendary. Sailor Moon, legendary. Masonic, legendary. Kamagari. So like, how are you finding time to just? I'm not even thinking about translating. I'm not thinking about none of that. I'm just watching this show for what it is, and I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, how did you balance that?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the one thing that is just for sure is that there's a lot of different shows out there. Okay, but
True.
one of the things that I've found out is that in the beginning, everyone sort of there was only a certain amount of stuff that came out, and a lot of people tended to be really open-minded and like to watch everything and anything, right? Give it a chance. You know,
Which is like how I am.
yeah, which is give it a chance. Maybe the show will grow on you. Maybe it won't. Give it one or two episodes, and great, and it works out. And that's the way I was for the longest time. Okay.
I feel like that's the best way.
And this is it. I've watched Full Metal Alchemist. Gave it 13 episodes. Gave up on it.
Yeah, I don't
Death
like
Note
Fullmetal Alchemist
stopped
either.
after 13. Bleach, I gave 7 episodes. That's it. 7 Deadly Sins, I gave 5 episodes. Gave up on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just didn't care. You know, Death Note, I didn't like the character design. I didn't care whether the characters lived or died, so I don't care. You know, whatever. Whatever. So he died. Okay, so big deal. Right. Oh boy, his name appeared in the book. Oh well, he died. Who cares? You know. It's just nobody there. Full Metal Alchemist, I didn't like the character design, so it didn't matter. Seven Deadly Sins, same thing. I mean, I like the character Elizabeth, but you know, holding. I mean, I said, character design is not about everything. I mean, for example, I liked Initial D, and that's probably one of the shows that has the worst character design ever.
Yeah, that's one of the ugliest characters. Yeah.
And
it's a phenomenal show.
Yeah, but and GTO is another one. You know, not exactly the best character design, but you know, I love the concept of the show.
I feel like Onizuka's character design is great, and then everybody else is just like.
Yeah, he just kind of gave up on some of the characters. Yeah, just facials and you know, I always, you know, have a preference towards good female character design.
Definitely,
but you know
the crazy, like, nice. This is why I love Rayard so much, because those 3 girls' character designs are just, I love it. I love
very
it.
stylized. I like how Clamp.
Yeah, Hikaru's hair and eyes. I just love. It is just.
Yeah, Clamp doesn't you know, go wrong with too many things. That I think at that time X was one of the really, really big things. Yeah. So well, like I said, the kids are getting into anime and that kind of stuff too. I mean, you know, he seems to come home all the time, and he's got more Japanese dialogue in him. And it's like, when did you learn, you know, omae wa shinderu, right? It's like,
this is your kid.
Yeah, it's like, when did you learn that, right? Like,
and you're supposed to be Chinese.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, all right, yeah. Like, so he's getting into anime in his own way, and I'm gonna let him kind of get his own, follow his own path and all. And I'll throw in some suggestions for anime here and there for him. But
how old is he?
10.
10. Yeah, he's gonna be a little bit skeptical towards what we're talking about.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah. But he'll find his own. So that's
you know
fun.
what, the time will come where he's gonna come and he's gonna say, you know something, Dad, let me borrow that Moldiver DVD, or let me borrow that Cowboy Bebop DVD. Let me see what these shows are. That time will come.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the foundation is there, and it's there, and he's exposed to it. At some point, he's gonna.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he has to figure it out. He has to figure it out on his own.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I'm sure that's what's good. So and again, there's also this this genre change that sort of started to happen. After the anime crash, I also noticed that things because obviously the number of titles and the funding and the the work groups that the anime companies are doing have collapsed, and the money that's spending on shows and types of shows have collapsed. Okay, so what I'm finding is, so to answer your question about what I think of modern anime as opposed to older animes,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
Is that
we're gonna get to that? We're gonna get to that actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to tell me like, or is this your answer to that? Because I was asking what was next. Okay.
Yeah, because as I'm watching more of these animes and that kind of stuff, I'm finding I'm not very interested in a lot of these new animes because of a lot of these things that are going on, and part of the reason is because we had an era in what I refer to as the golden era of anime, where there was a really big influx of money from a lot of the licenses and that kind of stuff coming out of the U.S. So these companies now have a lot of surplus money, and they can be more free to release stranger titles. All right, things that probably were maybe a little controversial, maybe a little different and way out there. Serial Experiments Lane is probably one of the ones that kind of comes to mind. Really dark images and that kind of stuff.
I still can't understand that show to this
day. Yeah, that's the thing. And you do like really weird crap, like whatever happened at the end of Evangelion, right? I mean,
yeah. I believe that they didn't need to go do the end of Evangelion movie.
I'm sure they did.
I think episode 25 and 6 were perfect. But.
Yeah, so and so I get it. I mean, that's So what had happened is that so now we got all these relatively shorter shows, okay? Because these new shows, right? They come out, they can be canceled in 4 episodes, and you can be canceled, right? You never know. Yeah. So what I'm finding is now there's a lot of lack of character development. Okay. They're playing it really safe. If you know what I mean. Like, we're only gonna do shows which either have a back history of being popular sellers, or we can market this stuff in a certain way. Like, for example, Gundams always have toy lines and that kind of stuff, Dragon Balls, previous history of like Sailor Moon for Sailor Moon crystals and that kind of stuff. Let's continue on with more Naruto. If we can add more story to another series, we'll continue adding on to those particular series, right? So what's happening is that if you came up with an idea like, oh, hey, I got this new idea of, let's play soccer in space or something, right, or whatever, right? They'll say, nah, if it's not Captain Tsubasa, we don't want it, right? And so, so a lot of these shows aren't going to get made, and if they do, they're only going to be really, really super short, and they're going to be forgotten about, and that's it, right? That's one problem. Second problem is manga, where a lot of these things are coming from, right? The manga industry, the whole, as you know, with the decline of, let's say, newspapers and books and that kind of stuff, right? It's also impacting mangas and manga sales and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the people who would be manga artists and that kind of stuff, making money, drawing mangas, right? They're no longer being able to make money, just drawing mangas, right? They have to do something else. Or the big thing where where a lot of the, shall we say, brain drain's going, is into video games.
Oh yeah.
Right. So people who were going to be making mangas and that kind of stuff for animes or that kind of stuff are now making stories and storylines and that kind of stuff for video games.
Wow.
Right. So all of a sudden now we don't have animes being made off of mangas. They're going straight to anime or animated shows and or animated games, right? And that's where the stories and that kind of stuff going. So again, some of those, really, what could be different and epic TV shows or whatever aren't getting made because they're just
putting it into games.
Yeah, they're going into Ghost of Tsushima or something, right? And that becomes an epic game for them, right? Genshin Impact, right? That's literally a game made out of
I played a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know.
you know,
It was okay.
yeah, that's the thing. It's okay. I can't take any more capture games right now, so I'm in the
Yeah.
same way. But yeah, so you can see what's happening, right? So a lot of the choices of animes and that kind of stuff are a little more limited, and so I'm finding myself getting into fewer and fewer shows because the show either gets cut off or just left unfinished, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
So bring it like to contemporary now. So like 2004. So you say you're getting into less and less. So does that just pretty much um lead up to now? Like it pretty much has been that way from '04 till now.
yeah, pretty
Or
much.
you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
slowly just declining as far as
yeah.
so
Like
like
I mean,
so your glory days.
yeah, I'll
So
look at a
your
lot of new
glory
shows.
days, your glory days pretty much like ended off at that point.
Well, yeah, it's always
There's
been.
nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah, no. I think what how I view it is that with the technology and with the with the example that I've given, okay, what should I say, the footwork or whatever. I've basically managed to pass that torch of basically trying to get this this anime, this genre that wasn't even designed for our country to become a genre in our country, right? And now the commercial companies have now basically taken that lead, and hopefully all the other fan subbing groups and digital fan subbing groups or whatever can hopefully pick up whatever they've missed, and then basically allow us to continue watching anime. I mean,
Anime.
I still miss those days where, like, and I made a mention of it in my last video, is that there was a day that we were sitting at the community center watching Dragon Ball in Japanese and not understanding what was going on, and we always said, "Man, wouldn't it be really great if we could come home from school and instead of watching Sesame Street or Electric Company, we could see Dragon Ball."
Which is crazy because that was my childhood.
Yeah, and exactly.
School,
yeah,
Pokemon and stuff would be on TV, and at 7:30, everybody knew, don't look for me. I'm not gonna be in the living room. I'm gonna be in the basement watching Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball.
Exactly.
It's just crazy how life.
That's exactly it, and then and then that happened, right? It's like our wish that we wanted happened, and then so really, so we've I mean, I've done what I needed to do, and I've
and you can live with that.
Yeah, and I've all the anime I grew up watching and that I loved and whatnot. I now have a fuller understanding of what those were. Sure, there's still a couple here and there. Maybe I might not have understood the ending of Evangelion, but I mean, sure, whatever. Or Double Zeta Gundam for that matter. SPT Legionnaire. That's one of the SPT Legionnaire. I could not figure out what the hell happened at the end of that one either.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so that's pretty much your journey as far as up till today. So. Did you ever find yourself getting into anything, or you kind of was just here and there, more into your older stuff?
Well, I mean, I do like things like Sword Art Online. I also watched a Goblin Slayer. I watched a bit of Food Wars, but I think that just I gave up on that one right away.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, I like the old JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I just don't like the new one.
You mean the OVA?
Yeah,
from back in the day.
Yeah. The original, the 3 OVA things for JoJo, but I like those ones, but the new ones, I just it just doesn't grab me. Same thing with the new Saint Seiya's. I didn't like any of those ones either. I preferred the old,
I feel like it's just something that it's just something. Either it connects to you or it doesn't. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, I was born in 1996, and it'll probably be like another 10 years before I would even really get into anime. So you're talking about I'm born 20 years later than a lot of this stuff, than like the generation that this stuff was made for, or I got into it 20 years later than the generation that it was made for. But for whatever reason, this stuff connects to me the same way it would connect to you, even though you're older than me. And then the newer stuff, I don't know what it is. It's just it doesn't grab my attention. The art style doesn't really speak to me. The content of so I feel like it's just a personal, subjective thing. Like it's just a subjective thing.
Yeah, no, I don't think I think also well it's that but I think also they call it the golden era of anime, just like we had the golden era of music, right?
Music,
yeah,
the 90s.
yeah,
So
80s and 90s, right? Where we had the greatest, variety, quality, all that kind of stuff we had in that era, and now in this new era we have different stuff, but it's not, as I said, maybe not the same kind of quantity, quality. We're not getting anything refreshingly new. I mean, for example, if I listen to a lot of a Rihanna song, I'm going, that sounds just exactly like Stevie Nicks. Hey, that sounds exactly like Soft Cell. Why can't anybody sing without auto tune?
You know what I think it is, and I was watching a podcast, and this is on the music side. What I'm realizing, and I heard a guy named Irv Gotti, who was like a big executive in the music industry, like 20 years ago or whatever. He did a podcast, and he was saying, and it made a lot of sense. He's like, what is like my generation supposed to say that hasn't already been said? And I kind of understood. I kind of got it. He was like, everything has been done already. Everything has been said already. Every style has been done already as far as like rap music goes and as far as singing goes. So that's where he started to end up with the auto. It's like, okay, well, everything that we can do with our natural voices, we've done. All right, let's do auto tune now. Let's mumble now. Let's say the same word over and over again now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get the same vibe as like with anime. It's kind of just like we've done everything we've seen. Like literally, if you think about it, if you want to say romance, Kamakure, Orange Road. What are some other romance from back in the day? You have his Karikano.
Yeah,
Her
Circumstances. Yeah, that's right.
And this is like all 90s and 80s stuff I'm talking about. For those that are watching that don't. Wow, this is the first episode that I've done that I've been more immersed into what I'm talking about and not so much the viewer. Because I forgot people are going to be watching this. But if you're watching this, this is like 80s, 90s stuff I'm talking about. So then on the love aspect, you have those shows. But then on the action aspect, you have like Mr. the North Star. You have City Hunter. You have, what else? You have the Dragon Balls. You have all the shonen stuff. But then you have all the adventure stuff. Nadia, Secret of Blue Water. Then you have the magical girl stuff. We already named a bunch of them. You have isekai stuff. So you have so much different things that it might be just like everything has already been done already. So now anime has gone into like a more edgy, supernatural, you know what I mean, demon route. I think now where everything's about dark, you know what I mean? Being more edgy and dark and more, I don't know I guess edgy is the word I can use. So I feel like when everything has been done already, that's when you start getting the experiments. You know what I mean? And so I think anime has kind of moved into more of an experimental, which is why there's a different experiment with isekai every single season. There's a different tone and experiment every different season. But to me, it's not working. You know what I mean? It's not very entertaining. It's not very... And then there's the argument that all the legendary mangaka have kind of taken a back seat, and all the new guys that are coming in now, they're not really that great. There's that argument. There's like I said before, I tend to just run off on tangents when things come to my head. But yeah.
But yeah, no, I hear you, because I think I feel the same kind of thing. There's a definitely change in the industry that I mean, it's not saying that there isn't any good content that was that's been released. It's just it's harder to find, and I find I have to go through a lot more things to get to something that I actually find liking. Hell, I'm actually finding more, more re-releases and that kind of stuff, and live action releases that I'm finding more entertaining than a lot of the new
Then
stuff that's coming out.
anime,
Yeah,
which is interesting. That's interesting.
because
I was about to say
yeah.
something.
Yeah, well, it says because I enjoyed the live action GTO and You're Under
Yeah,
Arrest
that was
series.
good. That was good.
Yeah,
The
which
Korean one or the Japanese one? There's two.
yeah, I like them all really. Because I said, I mean, the entire story arc. I think even they changed the story with some of the characters and whatnot, so they had new students and that kind of stuff. So I thought that really worked out really well. So.
The good thing for me, I feel like there's so much anime from the golden era that I haven't seen, that for a very long time I'll be able to survive off of just going back and watching a lot of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing. So what we've started is basically now we're approaching 40 years of anime that people can go through, so that new people, for example, that come into this, they have a really huge variety of a huge database of shows and that kind of stuff they can watch, and and it's different than, let's say, for example, sci-fi, right? Like, because I again grew up in an era that we had sci-fi, right?
You mean like Star Trek and things like that?
Yeah. But now and I'd go back and say, hey, we had some pretty horrible B movies and that kind of stuff back then, like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and all these other crazy movies like that. But yeah, but now give it a call, another 20, 30 years, now we have actually got some high production quality sci-fi movies, and I'd hazard to say that we could also say that with the superhero genre, right? So for people who like that kind of thing, because I know Marvel and DC were for the longest time trying to get superhero shows out there, and all we had for the longest time was Spider-Man and Superman, right?
Superman, yeah.
And we had some horrible try at Fantastic Four way back when, and the Incredible Hulk in Vancouver, at one time, but things like that, and it's fine now that we've actually got some really good X-Men movies and that because of high quality cinematics and whatnot, production quality, that type of stuff. So again, just like anime, our era is growing, expanding, giving everyone an opportunity to get more stuff. And again, I think that's a good trend. We at least when I first started, I never thought the chain reaction would be so quick and so complete. But it's good that now that we brought something out that maybe wasn't on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and then all of a sudden, now we've actually built an entire genre that at one time even rivaled the Star Trek genre, right? I mean, I remember times where when we went to conventions or when we went to make a convention or whatever, we'd always have to piggyback off of a science fiction convention or a Star Trek convention, right?
Wow.
So it would be a Star Trek / anime convention kind of thing, but anime. We'd only have just this one tiny room with only like 10 chairs in it, and that was our room,
Wow.
right? And then all of a sudden now, we grew to a point where we can take the entire convention hall, and and we have more attendance than a Star Trek convention.
Anytime Anime North is in town, anytime Anime North is going on, that whole area, and that area is an airport area, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That area that they and it shuts down the whole area. Like, traffic is going crazy. You can't find parking. People are flooding the streets. Like, so it's amazing that it's like, to me, if I wasn't such a nostalgic type of person, I wouldn't have known where anime came. You would have just thought that it was always this big thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the thing. Is that, because you're in a generation, you grew up, the anime being there already. You just had to figure out, that anime is just yeah, exactly.
I went backwards. Which I try to recommend people go back with. If you're my age, if you're watching this and you're in your 20s or you're a teenager or something like that, go backwards. You never know. You might like some of this stuff. Go backwards. It's a lot you're missing out on. But I think we're gonna wrap up today. Thank you so much for coming on here and telling your story. I'm still mind blown that like this video that I watched like a year ago on Happy Console Gamers channel, that you're the same guy, and then I ended up coming back and finding you a year later. That's awesome. But thank you again for coming and sharing your story. And listen, I want to have you back. I'd like to have you on here more regularly because through talking to you, I think there's a lot that we can discuss, like through talking about rare earth and talking about, you know, it seems like we know a lot as far as certain things, like when we were just talking about clap and stuff like that. Like I can think of we could probably do a whole podcast episode just talking
absolutely
about
definitely
you know
more about that.
I'm gonna hit you back up and we'll see if we can get you back on here again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, listen, William, I appreciate it so much. Tell the people, like, are you still like, do you ever go back? I see you got the Mo Diver poster behind you. I see you got the Bebop poster. Like, is this something that you still, you know, immerse yourself into on a regular basis, like anime, or is it just something every now and then you come to the little man cave? Like, are you still watching stuff? Do you go back and watch?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Right now, what I'm doing is I for like when I had my store, I had to basically take everything out of the store and basically pack it all away and basically store it while I move from location to location. Now I'm actually slowly taking everything back out and putting it back onto a shelf and actually building proper shelves for it. I have a picture of my anime music shelf that I finished. So I finally rebuilt a shelf to put all my CDs on there. And so and so I'm going to do the same thing with all the laserdiscs and all my books, and I've got a.
So you collect DVDs too? You have DVDs too?
Yeah, I have some DVDs and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I keep all the ones that I keep all the ones that I want to want to keep and watch, right? Because I bought at the time like I bought literally everything and anything that came out at that time.
That's how I was.
Yeah, one box at a time or whatever. So, it didn't matter if it was $40, $50, $60 or whatever, I'd buy it.
Right. And a lot of this stuff might be stuff that you don't necessarily like to show that.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the time, I still had that mentality of the only way you could get it or, watch it or see it is you actually had to have a physical copy of it. And
so so you're willing to do the blind buy.
Yeah.
Just to see
it. And I blind buy like tons of books, CDs, and that kind of stuff. I just blind buy them because, there's no way you could wait. I shouldn't say that the way you wait, but like I didn't want to wait for someone else to buy it, right? And then say, hey, is this any good, or is this what it's supposed to be, or whatever, right?
No, you want to.
No. I see it right there. I see the price. I got the ordering code number right there.
Right there.
Let's do it. $30. Buy that CD. Do it, right? And then it comes in. It's like, oh, it's an audio CD, like.
Oh wow.
An audio drama. It's like, oh, oh well. Like I've done that. I mean, as I said, I've got videos where I bought a Megumi Hashibara. Okay, very famous singer. She does the opening theme song for Slayers. Saberman J. She sings Catgirl, Super Catgirl Nuku Nuku. She does the opening theme song. She's a voice actor and everything else like that. Anyway, I remember going through a New Type magazine. I saw her name, and it's a new book. So I was like, oh, right on. She's got a new book, right on. Maybe it has more pictures of her or something, right? So I go and order the book. It's a novel.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It's an all-text novel.
A novel about her?
It's a novel that she wrote.
That she wrote? Oh, so it's not even her. You thought it was like her biography?
Yeah, or autobiography or something, or whatever. Maybe it's like pictures of her, and because that's usually what they do, right? They just like, here's a picture of me, standing beside a dock or something, and
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah, and it's like, okay, oh sure, I'll buy it, and then find out, yeah, it's a novel.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, still have it. I have no idea what it's about, but I paid like $15 or something for it.
Well, one day maybe we'll get you on here to show off a little bit of your collection and stuff.
Absolutely,
like
yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
Because I have some stuff here too, but most of my stuff is just DVDs.
Yeah.
But I'd like to talk to somebody that has like a lot of posters and audio and all that type. I feel like people would like to see that.
Absolutely.
Well, William, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
I appreciate you again. Thank you so much. If you guys want to see William back on the channel, put something in the comment section, and assuming he enjoyed himself tonight, I think he'll be down to come back another time and
absolutely
chop it up with Big Recca. But listen, that's all for today's episode. Like the video, comment down below what you guys would like to see next. I am out. Thanks for watching. animebackwhen.
Okay, so what you want to do right now is go down below and click like and click subscribe, and we get more videos having to do with the classic anime. Alright? So, until next time, see you again.